everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Erik Larsen Day. We're taking a look at the Defenders issue number 2, cover dated April 2001. First comment right out of the gate that I'm going to mention about the cover and the inside art as well. I feel like Erik Larsen is working at a breakneck speed, just going really fast on this book. No time to look back. That's not necessarily a negative thing. Usually when artists do that, and artists who are at least very seasoned, which Larsen is obviously at this point, it usually leads to a lot more kind of energy and dynamism in the pages, and we're definitely getting some of that on the cover here. Now, the signature just says Erik Larsen. I don't see any mention of Janson just on the cover. He is the inker on the interior pages. So I feel like this cover was inked by Larsen himself. These trees back here, kind of telltale signs, very Larsen type trees. And here is where I feel if Janson was inking it, you would see it kind of a different line that you could recognize as a Janson line. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So again, looking at this cover, it feels like he's working really fast, and the dynamics and the action and the energy of it just really shine through. If the art might look a little bit rougher than usual, right? Look at these, you know, the detritus, right? And the wreckage and stuff and the rocks that are being thrown about. I mean, these were drawn, you know, in a few seconds, each of them were, right? So he's not spending a lot of time on that. We know what it is, right? So there's telltale signs that, you know, at the time, I'm sure he's working on this and always on, you know, Savage Dragon. Seems like he's always doing Savage Dragon and occasionally other stuff. So maybe Savage Dragon production slows down a little bit, but, you know, he's decided probably to just really burn through the pages on this one to get back to Savage Dragon. I'm not exactly sure, but I get that feel from this second issue, again, much more than the first. But again, not a criticism, because I really do still like the art and think it works really well. And it helps maybe to also give it that kind of Kirby feel that I talked about issue 1 had, and that we get a lot of in this one as well. The Curse. So Kurt Busiek is the writer. I think that's how you say it. Or, sorry, credited as writers. Erik Larsen is credited as well. And Erik Larsen and Klaus Janson credited as artists. Pretty sure Larsen is doing pencils and Janson's doing inks, right? Chris Eliopoulos is doing letters. Gregory Wright, colorist. And there you go. I like this, just the color treatment on this first page with Namor. I think it works really well. Not to have him just be, you know, typical skin color, even though we get a little bit of it here, but there's some sort of red lighting that just makes it much more dramatic. That I really like. And this is a page, I've mentioned this before, when other artists ink artists that you're used to seeing ink themselves. You know, I don't see much Janson when it comes to the close-ups, right? It feels like he's being pretty true to what is probably already fairly rough-hewn lines from Erik Larsen. So I really don't pick up on any real Janson kind of lines or flourishes on this one. Again, in the close-ups. When we move back, we'll start to see a little bit of those Jansonisms, if I can say it that way. Love this. He's used, again, that old layout trick where the first page is a splash and the next two pages are a double-page spread, which Kirby popularized in the 70s, which Erik Larsen loves Kirby, loves Kamandi, and obviously he's really going for a Jack Kirby feel here, especially, you know, when you're reintroducing these types of characters that were created by Kirby in the 60s at Marvel. You know this character could not have been created by anyone else but Jack Kirby. And all these guys back here, even though they might not be 100% accurate to those characters, so these are the Atlanteans as well, I'll mention, right, that are on Namor's side, also designed by Kirby originally. So even though these might not be direct Kirby designs, they're definitely Kirby influenced. And, you know, I'm sure he had to go back and look a little bit at that stuff to get some inspiration for these designs. Although I could be wrong, he may really just, you know, have all that stuff ingrained in his mind. Like this down here, I don't think he you know, necessarily looked at any Kirby stuff. He kind of just came up with it on his own. But other costumes are a little more specific. So anyways, pure conjecture on my part. Just a great double page splash. Good use of Kirby Crackle. Namor and Atuma facing off. And this is just basically a pretext for Namor to just kind of pop out of reality. I wasn't quite sure what happened, you know, when I was reading it. So storytelling-wise, it's a little bit different. But he just kind of pops out of reality, I guess is how I describe it, right? Namorita and one of the Atlanteans looking at themselves kind of confused is kind of the only sign that something weird happened. And we'll find out later exactly what's going on there. basically the same kind of thing happens here, but we've got the gray Hulk all of a sudden, so that was kind of a little bit confusing to me, why we had the green Hulk last issue, and then all of a sudden we've got the gray Hulk here, the slightly smarter one, kind of more of a badass, that's the Fix-It period, I think, in Vegas. And here's another shot, like these two shots are further away of Doc Samson, so I almost feel like when you look at this, you could think that Jansen had drawn this whole thing here, and you definitely see a bit more of the Jansen in the inking. Always in the far away. Same thing happens once again to Doctor Strange. Great shot here. I love the inking, the power emanations, this whole kind of mystic scene that Doctor Strange finds himself in. I mentioned before how I feel like Larsen's doing, going back to Ditko as well, originally, who designed Doctor Strange. But obviously, if you go really deep, based on an earlier version of Doctor Strange that was drawn by Jack Kirby. So Jack Kirby has a lot of influence, even in characters where he didn't have a hand in the direct design of it. And those elements are the Asian kind of features, right? The eyebrows, pointed eyebrows, and the double mustache that I talked about last review as well, right? Where he's got the goatee kind of coming down, but he's also got the two pointed things. It looks a little odd, but then when you go back to see the original Ditko design and even the Kirby design, it all makes sense. And he, again, like I said, blurts out of existence as well. Of course, we're going to find out what happens. Boom, they all kind of appear in northern Canada somewhere, is what the caption says. And look at just the shorthand. This is another example of a couple of pages that I feel Erik Larsen got through in an afternoon almost. I mean, you know, a couple of trees, a little bit of mountains. This is done very quickly, almost kind of a Calvin and Hobbes vibe to it, like, you know, newspaper strip cartoon. I get that vibe there. Some Charlie Brown kind of lines in there as well. And I was confused storyline-wise as to why the Grey Hulk turns into the Green Hulk. Namor's the same, Doctor Strange is the same, so they all kind of materialize here in Northern Canada, but the Hulk is no longer the Grey Hulk, he's green. Like I said, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But yeah, just the visual shorthand here, just a little bit of backgrounds, just so we know what's going on, where we are. Very effective, just a little shot there. All of this feels like it was drawn very, very quickly, right? But still works fine, gets the point across, and we're off on a new adventure. This was a funny little sequence here where Hulk puts his hand on Namor, trying to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Relate to Namor, right? Hulk doesn't want to be here either, Fishman. Hulk doesn't like snow and cold. The Hulk will help Fishman smash a Tuma. If you know, dumb magician. Let me read that again. Hulk doesn't want to be here either, Fishman. Hulk doesn't like snow and cold. If dumb magician can send Hulk and Fishman home, Doctor Strange, then Hulk will help Fishman find the ones who brought us here and smash them. Then Hulk will help Fishman smash a Tuma. So Hulk's actually kind of being nice here to Namor. Oh, fish creature, I am a prince born. Touch me not. As you know, Namor, huge dick. Just Hulk putting his finger on his shoulder, of course, sets off another battle. Great dynamic shot again of Namor here punching the Hulk. Just all of this, like it feels like that issue when they start fighting. There's that classic issue that Kirby did of he finished someone else's story. I don't know if it was Gene Colan or something. He got sick and Kirby had to draw like 8 or 10 pages in a day or something. And it's basically Namor and Iron Man fighting. And you can tell he drew it really quickly, but every, you know, shot of action and punching is just so dynamic, right? Because I guess he had to make it exciting because he was drawing fast and, you know, couldn't put in all the details. So I think, you know, this visual shorthand of the power emanation stuff is definitely Kirby inspired, and maybe that issue Kirby did of that fight really helped push Kirby's style forward into the late 60s and early 70s, and those power emanations and those powerful lines. Of course, we got the B story with Wildcat, Hellcat at this point she's called, and kind of the original Defenders, or the Defenders from the 70s, are still kind of involved in the storyline, so that's fun, you know, but really the new Defenders almost is what we're interested in, although I do think there was an iteration of the Defenders before this book with Hulk, Namor, Doctor Strange, and who am I forgetting? Silver Surfer. I could be wrong on that, let me know in the comments, but I think I'm right. So yeah, the interesting bit on this page is, you know, you've got a bit of story here, kind of tame storytelling all the way through, and then boom, we get back to the action with Namor and the Hulk, and, you know, the panel gets blown out. Hulk is overlapping the panel, chunks of snow flying everywhere. Just extreme foreshortening, which Larsen is a master of, as you can tell here. This was a fun sequence. Always like the vertical panels, right? Very 90s, very Image to me. So another funny little sequence. And again, another sequence that makes, you know, the art just turns into almost, like I said, Calvin Hobbes newspaper strip, and just feels like Larsen is drawing so fast when I see this panel here and this panel here. And basically it's this gentleman who lives out in a cabin up here in the northern Canadian woods, and he says, you know, listen up all you, I don't know what you're doing here and I don't know what you are, but I come up here 40 years back to get away from everybody. And I don't care if you're fancy city demons or demons from hell, you're disturbing my privacy. And all hell breaks loose, boom, because again, as I talked about last issue, this is really just Larsen music riffing on old, you know, 60s action adventure Marvel comics, and you know, monsters coming out of the ground. This guy, he's some sort of weird analog for Savage Dragon. Is Larsen doing that on purpose? Kind of feel that way, right? And then we get the shot of the villain of the piece, Pluto, Lord of the Underworld. And I just, again, I marvel at the amazing extreme foreshortening that Erik Larsen is a master of. Like him and Walt Simonson, I do feel like he gets some of it from that, right? Kirby first, then Simonson, and then Larsen. And Larsen's kind of taken from both. But when I see this kind of, you know, and I feel like Jansen the inker is feeling the same way, because Simonson has kind of a more angular kind of look to his art overall, right? Not quite as round. Everything seems to be angled off. So I feel like in the inking here, Jansen is definitely going for that. Like this here could be some Simonson kind of inking, right? Even the way the explosion here is inked, very Simonson-esque. Not that that's a bad thing. Just, yeah, even this character here, the slight bit overlap over the panel. Great running pose. I've talked before about how hard those are to give the character dimension. You know, it's not a full kind of profile shot of him. You get a bit of a 3/4, you know, his face kind of protecting himself, hiding himself behind his arms. Just the whole body language of the shot is very good. Silver Surfer, great shot of him coming towards us. And again, just a shorthand, simple way of drawing that kind of lustrous effect that the Silver Surfer has. And again, looking at these two pages, they're good examples of where I feel Erik Larsen's catching up on the deadline and just drawing very quick and furiously. Look at this character in the background. Like, you know, that took all of 10 seconds. But nothing wrong with it. I mean, the same level of storytelling all the way throughout. Sometimes, you know, if you're a good storyteller, it'll bring you through a lot of situations where maybe the art is not lacking, but maybe simplified, right? Not quite as elaborate as usual. And, you know, it feels like in this issue, he knows when to pull back and just do something quickly and when to pour it on, like in this shot here, right? Looking at the Hulk, he's clearly poured it on. Looking at Doctor Strange, probably did it real quick and simplified some stuff, but of course he's in the background, so that makes sense. So well dosed throughout to be able to hit that deadline, get the book out quickly, but also to get your money shots that look really cool, like this one here. Oh, and that's the end of the book. Wasn't even expecting that. So I guess, oh no, my mistake, because they put the letter page here. That's a little bit confusing. Odd. All right, so the sequence continues. This one, I thought, you know, is there something weird to it? It works. I mean, I'm not complaining, but maybe one of those panels I drew quickly and some of the foreshortening is a bit odd to me. I could be wrong on that. This page here, I really love, once again, just like on the cover, the thick, bold lines for the rubble and the big, thick kind of texturing, almost shadows on the side of the rocks here. I think this, just all the textures in this panel work really well. Pluto telling him to get lost. Of course, that's not going to happen. And then boom, we get some sort of explosion once again. Is that? No, it can't be. But who is it? Valkyrie, who was a member of the Defenders back in the 70s, right? That's probably why she's being reintroduced here. Love the Kirby squiggle shadow, I would call it. Okay, usually this would be all filled in black, but then it's been kind of hatched and textured, which is kind of a different spin on it with these little touches of Kirby crackle, which again screams Kirby, but is made all its own within Larsen's pencils and then Jansen's inking. The tilted angle obviously helps to make this a much more dramatic shot. Here's where I have issues with Marvel production sometimes, or comic books in general, when we do stuff like this. Okay, as an artist, I know for sure that Erik Larsen did not draw this all the way to the edge of the page and cut off just this little bit of the point of her spear and the little point of her foot down here. For sure, the original art goes out quite a bit more. Well, at least I would say half an inch to an inch more all the way around, right? So that you get that within the negative space in the frame. You get the toes and the extra bit of foot there. And even just the fact that the Silver Surfer's board here just really gets close to where the paper folds. I know for sure in the original art, see this red space here? I guarantee you there's that much more space all the way around so that we get the tip of the spear of this and we don't have almost this kind of parallel line here, way too close to the spine of the book, and not having negative space between the board and the border of the actual page and panel. So a little bit of a production snafu. Not the end of the world, but when you start producing comics, you notice these things, and it's things you don't want to see. All right, there you go, guys. That is my review of The Defenders issue number 2. If you're still watching and you aren't subscribed, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your support a lot. Hopefully you'll stick around. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second for you, really easy, and it helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books, hopefully just like we are. If you're interested in my comics, either Big Baby or StarCrasher, get in contact with me. We'll work something out. Everyone out there, thank you so much for watching and have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents STARCRASHER one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe!